You'll remember back in 2013, food fraud hit the headlines when it emerged horse meat was being sold in burgers and ready meals in some of our supermarkets.
Yes, experts say that because supply chains are getting longer with the food we eat further removed from where it was made, fraud is not only common, it's also very hard to detect.
Now, the authors of a new book are hoping to guide shoppers through the aisles by highlighting examples of how people are being fooled. Professor Richard Evershed and Nicola Temple join us now. Morning, both. Thanks very much for joining us. And you have brought props with you. We'll talk about those in a moment.
Okay.
But I suppose, Professor, how widespread is this problem? And it's not just meat you're talking about, is it?
Well, it's a global phenomenon, and actually we don't know how widespread it is as in percentage terms. It's because we just there's not routine testing, and so there's really no idea just how widespread it actually is. So it is a big unknown.
So, Nicola, people at home be opening their fridges this morning, opening their cupboards. What are the things that you've been looking at that might surprise them in terms of what happens to the food you routinely eat?
Right. So we didn't do any new information. So, but from the stories that we gathered, some of the things that cropped up are your sausages for your morning breakfast. There may be some undeclared meats, for instance, in there. Your spices, yeah, there is not a single area that you cannot be concerned about.
So now it's interesting you mention meats, because the trigger point for this, to a large extent, of people's interest in what goes into our meat, for example, was the horse meat scandal. So that was a moment when we all went, do you know what actually is in our food?
Yeah, that was a moment for me as well, and we'd worked in the food fraud area years ago, and when the horse meat thing broke, there was a lot of discussion, government reports, discussions of legislation, and it's what motivated us to the book. We thought it was time that there was a synthesis of the literature and the whole story in a publicly digestible form.
Okay, so you've got. Don't tell me what they are, because I'm going to kind of. Well, I guess particularly here. So it looks to me that we've got three things here which look similar to peppercorns. I think one of them is peppercorns, and the other, that one in the far distance. But I haven't touched them or smelt them.
Yeah, well done.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're spot on. These are indeed.
I'm going to show that to people at home so they can have a little look. I've given it away now, but so I thought that these were the peppercorns, and I could tell that myself by the shape. But these are what people say these were peppercorns, or
right.
are peppercorns?
So these are actually dried papaya seeds,
right.
And dried papaya seeds have been found as an adulterant in peppercorns.
Right.
So when you're looking at them separate like that, as you did, you could tell which one was the true peppercorn. But when you mix them, so this is a mix.
Oh, this is a mix. Yeah.
So when you mix them, if you're not specifically looking for it, it's much harder to tell. And then, of course, when you grind them, this is 50% papaya seeds.
Okay, the other thing you brought along here is the oils. Do you want to explain?
Yeah, oils have been shown to be a particularly vulnerable area, and this is the cheapest vegetable oil you can buy. This is what's labelled vegetable oil. It's rapeseed oil, and in fact, so cheap that one of the supermarkets was selling it so cheaply, people are actually going in buying supermarket trolleys worth
Is it what it says it is, though?
But that rapeseed oil, no problem at all. There would be no reason to fraudulently. But another oil, corn oil, attracts a much higher price, and there was a temptation. We showed this on the supermarket shelves, that was being mixed with rapeseed oil. So the example I've got here is a pure corn oil and a corn oil that's been mixed with rapeseed oil, and from the colour you can't really tell.
And from the smell, that's a little.
Yeah, it's got about 20% rapeseed oil in there, which was the level that we were finding on the supermarket shelves.
How can you know then, as a consumer?
You can't know as a consumer, and that's where you have to start doing what we do. We're analytical chemists, and we start to develop start to develop the methods, and they're high-end analytical methods where we use complex instrumentation, build databases of the compositions of the true materials, and then you have something to compare the products to. And this is a principle that goes through the entire.
I mean, if we ate any of these, we'd be okay, would we?
You'd be okay.
Yeah.
But there are products where perhaps you might not.
Yeah, absolutely. So counterfeit alcohol, for instance, is one of the things that has been growing in terms of appearing on the UK market, and it can be extremely toxic depending on what it's made of. So chloroform to isopropyl alcohol.
Yeah, or basically organic solvents being replaced for alcohol.
And that is something that, I mean, these ones, it's very hard to tell as a consumer, but those ones, you know, it's £2 for a bottle of vodka. You get what you pay for, and when you open it up and it smells like nail varnish remover, your nose should be telling you this is not safe to drink.
Well, that's an interesting line you used there, which is you get what you pay for. Now, people might be thinking if you do pay a lot for something, that you're guaranteed some kind of provenance. You're doing that head that means maybe, maybe not.
Well, in fact, it's sometimes it's the premium products that attract the fraud.
Like what?
Because that's where the profits are to be made. So you take a high-end olive oil, for instance, and you can be diluting that with some sunflower oil or a lower-grade olive oil, and then they have very similar chemical compositions, and then it becomes a very complicated procedure to tease them apart. There are sequences of tests you can do, but that's where it gets very complicated, where the fraudsters know the games that they have to play to actually cheat the tests.
What is your advice then to all of us as consumers?
Well, the first step is to you know, avoid the ready meals. That was great. That was a great advice, actually. It's to use whole foods that we recognize that grew in the ground or ran or flew or whatever. And to use those to prepare your own meals, and that's the best way that you can know what you're eating.
If you can hold it in your hand and identify it, it's passed the first test. As soon as you start to grind things up, turn them into liquids and mixtures, especially processed foods, are especially vulnerable.
That kind of thing.
Sauces, make your own sauces. Food chains, if you go and shop in places where there are a multitude of variants of a single type of food claiming to be various specialist versions, perhaps go to your local producer, your local supplier, get to know them, ask them questions about the food, get into a dialogue. Food is one of the most important things in our lives. It's our health and our nutrition and our long-term, lifelong sort of welfare. So we should care about it a little more than just...
breakfast?
Me, I had muesli this morning.
Do you know where it came from?
I don't know, but I could actually see what I was putting in there, though. You could see the grains and you could see the fruit, so that passes the first test.
Safest with a banana, though, eh?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh, okay.
No.
I haven't detected any banana fraud yet, as far as I'm aware.
No.
Nice to see you this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your interest.
And Rita Nicholas' book is called Sorting the Beef from the Bull.